That was the time when the Indian product landscape was blooming. We just signed up Dhoni and like the word unicorn I heard, for the first time. Designing for the impact space means the outcomes are a lot beyond your financial returns. This is one girl who said, I don't know whether I'll be able to study beyond 10th, but because of this product, I am able to code. That drives you. Even if you're working in domains which are not directly connected to impact, there are ethical design practices or even just questioning your outcomes.
Fatema, welcome to the Yellow Couch series.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this.
Quite thrilled to be here.
I want to use this episode to explore an interesting mashup of things. UX design, spirituality, and social impact, which I think are the three words I would use to describe you. How would you describe yourself actually?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I would say that I'm always like curious, and that curiosity has led me to go into all these different directions, right? If you see like spirituality, fundamentally that is what it is, it's seeking. So that's how spirituality happened. And social impact is because I used to always question my efforts. Whatever, design or whatever I used to do, I used to always question myself that this energy, that whatever little life I have, whatever I'm doing, what is it amounting to? And that nagging thought led me to explore this space. I come like from a family of unqualified designers where like we've never had any kind of an electrician or a carpenter.
Oh, so everybody was like a
hands-on DIY.
Wow.
My mom used to never buy clothes. It was always she used to make clothes for us, or go to someone and get it done. And like the family has histories like that.
So that led you to the National Institute of Design?
Yes.
When was that? How?
I joined in 2008.
Which discipline?
Apparel design.
Apparel? Why apparel? Because of your mom?
I was this kid where I spent my summer vacations doing crochet or embroidery along with my mom. And it was just very natural, like that was the thought, like free time was spent into exploring textiles and fabric and all. So it was a very natural progression.
And then you and I met at a UX design company. How did UX design happen for you? Okay,
so there's a little more backtracking than we could do. So I studied marketing and then I went on to work in an investment bank.
Really?
Edelweiss, which is today a big one, and that time it was a startup. Research fascinated me. So it was a campus placement and I said like, if I get into research, only then I'm taking in. And I got in. So all of that was happening. So when I went into NID and I was giving my final jury, the feedback that I got was that, you have like this analytical side to you as well. And you should explore that. So, think, don't just think in the box and say that, because you've done apparel. And even my projects are all a little different from my, the usual class process because of this side. So when I got out and I was just exploring, I found UX very interesting because pure hardcore design thinking could be applied into different domains. And there is a whole analytical product side to it where you're talking about numbers, metrics. So it just really clicked for me. It just worked very well. There's research in it and so just loved it.
So the analytical side of that really appealed to you, along with of course the artistic and the design
side. The creative problem solving.
And then you went into the world of fantasy cricket. How long were you there and how was that experience for you?
It was fascinating. So I joined Dream11 in 2018. It was yet to become a unicorn. And they just signed up Dhoni at that time. And so I'm very passionate about cricket.
Oh yeah?
And I love cricket, grown up watching it. As a consultant, when I was working with HFI, I used to think that, I want to see the other side as well. How a product goes live and, what's that feeling and how do you continuously engage. So, and that was the time when the Indian product landscape was blooming and, all these amazing companies were coming
Homegrown
in.
product companies.
Yeah,
were coming up,
unicorn, like the word unicorn I
Yeah.
heard, for the first time around that time.
Yeah.
That's where I came across Dream11 and it sort of fused cricket and product design and all of that. So I explored that and it was so fascinating to be a part of that insane
That
growth
rush.
journey. Yeah. We were like 7 and then, when I quit, we were like 40 plus.
Wow.
And that was the kind of growth scale I got to see. Tremendous learning and fast-paced, data-driven product environment. So
Yeah,
quite
and
a-
then you were like looking for your next, I guess, journey on the seeking path that led you to Isha.
in the background, I always had this question that, what I'm doing with my time and where is this going? And, I've had that background commentary always happening. So had got into meditation since 2014. Like that was the first time I meditated. When you get onto that path, just leads you, right? So there was this one course with Isha Foundation, which is called Sadhana Pada, which is like you come and spend 8 months in their campus and you just do a lot of not just yoga meditation, but you do a lot of volunteering. And the idea is to just break down your compulsions and it's not comfortable. So I wanted to experience that. That's why I took a break.
So you quit your job.
I quit my job.
You quit Mumbai.
Yeah.
You quit everything that you liked and were feeling comfortable about and decided to do an 8-month stint of truly being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who do that. And then you went on your social impact journey. Tell me about that.
Like when I came out, some very obvious directions I was exploring. I kind of took a step back and I was just thinking that this is something I've always thought about, but I never had the, so to speak, courage, to take a step. So I said like, this is the best point, to do it.
Yeah.
So I just said, let's see what comes out of it. And just one thing led to another and it's been very fulfilling.
When you say social impact design, what does that mean to you? Like, what does it really mean?
So first, let's talk about designing in the social impact space, right? And then we can come to as a designer. When you talk about design, essentially it's about solving a problem, coming up with a solution that fulfills a certain either user need or a business need. Designing for the impact space means the outcomes are a lot beyond your financial returns. You are taking into account the impact that this solution will have on the communities involved, the different stakeholders, the people involved, environment, and impact in domains of health, accessibility, education, inclusion, and so on. Broaden your horizons to look beyond financial returns, to look at all these other aspects. I feel like designing in the social impact space needs a lot of grit, because there's just so many constraints you're always facing, and so you have to be very passionate about it, and you have to be very sure about it that this is what I want to do, because only then you'll be able to overcome it. Otherwise you'll just, like, there are times you'll crib, you'll quit, and it's not like that. And even in terms of your remuneration, all of that, so it's very passion driven. Like you really need to want to do.
Give me an example of a social impact project you worked on recently.
There's this one project I'm working on. It's a education product for the kids in the underserved section of the society. So what happens is these kids, when they go to government schools, their curriculum is not as strong. So there are studies which show that when they would finish their education, the chances of them getting jobs, etc., as compared to other kids would be lesser, because they don't have the 21st century skills. Those aspects are provided on an online platform. So these are kids like, of say a vegetable vendor or a rag picker and all. So they would not have their own phones like how typically otherwise kids would have. So they don't have access to a web all the time. So it's an AI enabled WhatsApp bot through which learning is so it's just to make it more,
it's in a chat format.
Yes, and that too through their parents' phones. So whenever they're
and it's multilingual.
and So
and it's such an accessible format.
Exactly. And there are topics like it's financial literacy, coding.
That's so cool.
So, you know, these subjects which these kids would not have access to otherwise.
Did you have to adapt your design process to the social impact space, like compared to what you would do at Human Factors or Dream11? Do you feel that there were so many differences here that you had to change the process?
100%. And you know, it's so interesting. It's because of exposure to all these sides, like say consulting, to product design, and to even spirituality. Like that, I think I'm in a place to be able to take these calls because you cannot be textbook, right? The kind of constraints, like there's just so many compliances. A social enterprise or an NGO or even if it's for profit, like a social enterprise, they have to abide by and comply with so many rules to be able to maintain that status that your user flows get impacted.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to show this, and you know, this step has to come after this. You cannot word it like this. You know, your persuasion, design skills, all of that cannot. You will face blockers. So if it was a textbook person or a product, like you'll be like, you know, what's going on? But you have to have that kind of patience and the capacity to see the whole picture to be able to say that, okay, you know what, let's do this like this. Or you have to be able to get your own hands dirty to, you know, you can't say that, okay, I'm not going to, because there are resource constraints and those kind of things. So.
And you talked about, you know, the remuneration part of it, right? I mean, I don't know of a single designer who doesn't want to work in the social impact space, right? That's the dream, right? You want to be doing meaningful work that makes a change for the better to the world. But the challenge always is, how do you balance your financial aspect of, you know, spending time, investing time in that? So what advice would you give to people who want to contribute to the social impact space, who want to become social impact designers?
I think it's a question of personal priorities, right? Like I was not able to take that call early on because my priorities were not clear. Like now, after taking this break and a lot of reflection, I realized that this is so important to me, then I will have to invest my time in it and, you know, take that step. Otherwise, just be like talking about it in my head. So the first thing is, if your priorities are clear, that this is what I want to do, which means that living a certain, it will impact your lifestyle.
It means that you have to then make some certain changes. Yes,
so it will impact your lifestyle, and if your priorities are clear, you will be able to take those. And I'm not saying that at all points, like I have not yet explored this domain completely, but I do believe that this domain is getting more and more stronger, because you just see the world right now, right? Like whether it's climate or whether it is on humanitarian grounds, and tech is playing an important role, like whether it's a refugee situation or whatever, you know. So I feel like social impact is going to be get stronger. So the remuneration and all, I'm sure at a global level, etc., it may not match up to complete commercial products and the kind of funding that you know, they would get. So these designers who want to work in this domain will have to have that clarity in their head that this is what I want to do, and as a result of it, this is what will happen in my life, and I'm okay with it because that's the kind of fulfillment I'm getting out of it.
Is there a way to kind of maybe have a part of your design time invested in social impact and the rest in maybe more commercially viable things, so there's like a balance, and more people can actually take those calls?
Yeah, that's also an interesting way of looking at it, that you know, if you are not 100% giving your time, then as designers, you're equipped with that way of thinking of and tools and techniques that you know, which you can consciously make a choice to devote certain amount of time apart from, you know, what you're doing, to create that balance, to have that outlet. Another thing is that even if you're working for in domains which are not directly connected to impact, there are ethical design practices, or even just questioning, like as a designer, just questioning your outcomes to ensure that they have some kind of alignment. You know, it's not promoting any kind of, say, negative behaviors or consumerism or deceptive design practices and so on. Like there are examples of products having features which have some kind of impact, like say Facebook coming up with a safety marker and so on.
So in some sense there can be social impact in the little things you do on any project for that matter.
Yes. You could, like, if you don't want to 100% take that.
From investment banking to social impact and feeling fulfilled as a designer. Tell me more about that.
I would say it's just beautiful to be in a place where your work drives you and it's not something that you do just because you have to. And that's what fulfillment does. When you see the result, right? Like when I go to do research in these schools, to see the kids. There's this one girl who said like, I don't know whether I'll be able to study beyond 10th, but because of this product, I am able to code, I'm able to do this, and that gives me so much pleasure. So that drives you. You don't feel tired, you don't feel exhausted, whatever it takes. Whether it is this product or another product, like again I'm working for Isha, which is in the mental health space. And if you see like there are WHO stats which says that going forward globally 1 in 4 people would have some or the other kind of mental issue, whether it's depression, anxiety. We do a lot of like user research even there, and we hear the kind of stories that they have, like say any kind of meditation, even if it's just like 1 minute of breath watching or whatever form and shape, and post what's the impact. When you hear these things, you just feel that okay, whatever I'm doing is just going in this direction of some difference it's making to someone, and that's the high of fulfillment, which cannot be matched with whatever kind of a paycheck or whatever holidays. It all can be substituted with that kind of fulfillment.
So how does one go about seeking social impact problems to solve if somebody wanted to start?
Honestly, there are a lot of forums like available that do have, whether it's UN or there are a lot of these organizations who do work. For me, it just happened very accidentally, and just one thing led to another, which got me connected. What I can say is that you have to start somewhere around you if you make these kind of connections, and then the industry in like the domain is so tight and small that you will find one link to another that will take you forward.
Have you seen, or do you look up to one design intervention as a case study in the globe or in India that was successful in solving a big social impact problem? Like, are there like great case studies in this domain?
I feel very proud of actually about the whole financial inclusion wave that has happened in India, like using technology. It's in a place where a lot of advanced transformation can happen. There is an underlying layer of base digital infrastructure that's built, and all of this can happen because of, let's say, whether that's UPI or mobile penetration. I think it's 70% plus mobile penetration in India, which is one of the highest in the world. Or if you see broadband connectivity, like 5G rollout is one of the fastest in India. Highest number of digital payments happen in India globally through UPI. So like all of this is at some point solving a problem, because in a vegetable market able to just purchase anything, and that does create impact. Like that's insane what India's been able to do, and there is a lot more to it. Like on, say, based on Aadhaar, there are a lot of tech innovations and solutions which are riding on social identity, which is now completely digital in India.
So you're saying over the last 15 years or so, a lot of fundamental building blocks have been built that can really have a far-reaching impact on all kinds of social impact problems, because at the end of the day, these building blocks affect everything. Whether it's easy digital payments or Aadhaar, which is your unique identity,
or health, health solutions riding on Aadhaar, and so much more, right? Like even your government, all these schemes to help financially and even farming. All of that is now getting more and more, tech based. A lot of monitoring is happening, which is tech based, and that's all riding on all these underlying building blocks.
It's very interesting you say that, Fatema, because whenever I've met designers, right, I find that after a few years of doing design work, most designers become very cynical. They're like, I can't really make an impact. It's a dream that is going to stay a dream to actually feel like our design can actually make some change happen. We churn out such brilliant designers from NID. But if you really think about our footprint, our impact footprint as an institute or as a community in a country that is full of social impact problems, it's really unfortunate that we can't really claim that we've had any impact at all. So what needs to change? Is it like the seeds that get planted at the institute, at the design school, or is it some sort of a public-private partnership ecosystem that needs to happen? What needs to happen so that designers can have a larger impact?
Right. I think at an institute level, I remember the first time, we were introduced to the definition of design, and, I talked about it, and I was just so thrilled. I was like, wow, you have to take into account society, environment, community. That hit me, I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. But I feel what happens is that when designers get out and at that stage in life, it's the companies which need to also have some kind of patronage in promoting social impact.
That's a really important.
Yeah, they do have CSR budgets and all, but it should just not be for the sake of it.
So every for-profit company or design studio really needs to have one vertical.
Yes, one avenue
on social impact.
Yes, where designers can come and contribute in some way and create that system where
create that ecosystem
where impact problems are also considered, and it's not just left to individuals who will just have to leave everything, take a hit.
Because individuals like you are rare who will leave everything and be like, I'm gonna go for this. Right, it's hard for people to make those decisions.
Yeah, and not just as a designer, but even when I just talk to founders or just meet these people, they are immensely passionate people, and I'm like, wow, how are these people thriving in these kind of constrained environment, like these founders? And so it should not be just left to them. Companies and successful, especially commercially successful products, if they have these avenues of also picking up problems where design can come and play a role, and it's not just design, some problem is picked up to be solved, then you are providing a platform for talent to be a part of it, and it's out there.
Very recently, I don't know if you caught the news that design thinking is kind of on the downturn. Right, and IDEO had to shut a few offices of theirs, and there were a lot of kind of write-ups on how design thinking had its time, and now it's kind of fading away, and people are seeing through it. And one interesting article I read was about how a lot of this surface level dissemination of design thinking practices created this impression that design is about putting post-its on a wall and doing what is called innovation theater than real innovation. It's the act of feeling like you're doing innovation, but it doesn't, and over time, companies and groups realized that it wasn't really leading to anything. I wanted to see what you think about that. Yeah, it's one thing to take up social impact projects, but then how do you make something really change?
This notion of design thinking just being tied to a process should be a little, the process is there to help you. It's like a framework, it's a technique which you need to leverage, but it doesn't mean that you are so stuck with it that nothing comes out of it. So one is that, right? Designers need to be aware about it, that it doesn't, the death is not in the process. Yes, process is that is to take you, and that agility you need to maintain to be able to think that, okay, this is working, this is not working in this environment. You don't have the resources to do end to end. And the second thing is that designers need to be able to understand impact metrics, success metrics, to be able to say that that value cost comparison, that if I'm doing this, then this will be the outcome, and therefore this needs to be done or not done also. Like, be ready to that whole idea of subtraction, right? Because you just sometimes designers tend to get carried away and like don't either vocalize the impact of design work or are not able to associate it. Then it's a fail. It's just time, resources absorbed. And then in the social impact space, it becomes even more critical because funds are so precious, right? You're so constrained. You don't have talent. You don't have enough, people. You are looking at all these different kinds of constraints you're working within which. Therefore, in this space, even more the designer has to be aware about these things and be able to drive the outcomes. Like I think you are the biggest proponent of outcome-driven design, 100%. Right? If that's taken away, then this is what happens. Like,
like if you were to take the waste management problem, right, as a social impact problem, I believe, a lot of design approaches would make the mistake of viewing that purely as a mechanical issue, right? Oh, that there aren't enough garbage bins, but that is so far from the truth, right? And I think that kind of approach really gives design a bad name, because you don't bother to really understand the emotional landscape around, how people think about waste, where it is in their hierarchy of needs, what stops somebody from actually caring about that. And so a potential solution can't be oversimplified. It is a complex problem, it deserves that level of thinking. How do you really crack the hard social impact problems? I think it deserves to, be treated differently than the kind of problems that I think most designers in India, like you and me, are solving for the 1% of India.
Yeah.
Right? The 1% of India and their problems are on a completely different planet.
Yeah.
Right? And we solve those problems and we feel great about ourselves.
Yeah.
And are they really hard problems to crack? Some of them are, but not even close to the kind of problems.
Are they even problems?
Well, that's first world problems. Yeah. Are they even problems? If you put into perspective, the kind of things that you're probably dealing with.
Yeah.
So, I would love to spend some time with you offline and think about how to put that kind of framework together. One, I think, aspect of it has to be that when you design for India, I think the rules are different. You can't take Western ideas of solutions and plonk them here.
Absolutely.
And there are so many such thoughts that I have, I'm sure you have with your experience, that can really pull together something, hopefully, that will make an impact.
Inshallah.
So I'm just assuming that you would love to work with me on that. What's the one advice you would give to somebody passing out of design school today if they want to have a meaningful design career which makes them feel fulfilled?
I think don't settle. Always keep questioning yourself and always keep asking the right questions, keep that curiosity alive. Like, it shouldn't be like, okay, 10 years and you've done it to the death and now you're like, okay, now what's new? And that kind of drop, that will come in if you stop.
So be willing
asking.
To hit the reset button.
Yes,
you
all
hit the
the
reset
time.
Button a lot.
And honestly, if every 4-5 years I don't do that, then I'm like, okay, what am I doing? What's that excitement, thrill? I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that just keeps me that childlike enthusiasm, and that keeps it on.
Fascinating. So I'm going to wrap it up and say that I'm very excited by the prospect of the things we can work together on. Really be able to look back on this conversation and say that, yes, we did something meaningful.
It would be a pleasure.
For this country and for the big problems. So thank you so much for joining me on the Yellow Couch and for giving us a peek inside your mind. And I wish you all the very best for all the amazing work you've been doing.
Thank you.